United Airlines employees who swear it was something otherworldly in the sky.
I don't know what the hell it is.
Big object in the sky. Very, very big object.
UFOs have captured the attention of humanity for centuries. Our planet is vast, spanning many hundreds of thousands of miles, many of which remain undiscovered. Despite this, we still haven't discovered other sentient creatures like us. So do they really exist? Today, we'll explore insane, compelling, and straight-up disturbing evidence of UFOs and the aliens that use them. These are horrifying alien encounters, with many UFOs being spotted by people all around the globe. UFOs have been sighted everywhere, from over Washington, D.C. to up in the atmosphere of Earth, from governments around the world going on record saying they exist, to credible evidence of aliens and life beyond our planet. What's the truth and what is fiction? Our experts have found the most compelling footage available, so let's dive in and explore the most disturbing UFO evidence. Hudson Valley.
Oh, good God. I don't know.
Not quite.
I'm gonna tell you something, honey. I don't know what the hell it is.
Let's travel to Hudson Valley, a quiet area just 1 hour away from New York. While it might seem like a regular valley today, the place was home to a crazy UFO sighting in 1982. Reports flooded in from thousands of eyewitnesses describing V-shaped UFOs with multicolored lights flying above them. The first sighting was from a retired police officer who initially thought he was looking at an airplane. However, the craft was moving too slow and quiet for it to be a regular airplane. While most of the eyewitnesses describe a slow-moving V-shaped UFO, others describe a circular craft that could move at remarkable speeds before disappearing altogether. One remarkable sighting happened above the Indian Point nuclear plant, which would have been an alarming moment. Thankfully, the craft disappeared before the security could take action. Despite the thousands of eyewitness accounts and photographic evidence, the Hudson Valley UFO wave is still yet to be explained. The military was quick to dismiss the entire event as simply bogus, but even they weren't able to provide a plausible explanation. So the case remains shut, with the credibility of the actual events being almost indisputable. What had happened was what scientists wondered, not whether it had actually happened or not. Shag Harbor.
Coast Guard, this is Shag Harbor. Do you read? Come in.
While Americans had Roswell, the Canadian version of the story is called Shag Harbor. It's been just as publicized and almost even more credible, if anything, than Roswell. Here's what happened. On October 4th, 1967, an unknown object crashed into the water near the tiny fishing village of Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia. More than 11 people watched the object as it headed towards the harbor. Multiple witnesses heard a whistling sound and a loud bang as it crashed into the water, making them assume some plane had exploded or flight had gone wrong. Shortly afterward, a witness named Laurie Wickens and 4 of his friends contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police after they spotted a large object floating in the Atlantic Ocean about 1,000 feet from shore. After all, they assumed it was a military craft. When the RCMP arrived, some officers began to understand the gravity of the situation. Unfortunately, an investigation by the Royal Canadian Navy and the Royal Canadian Air Force didn't turn up much. No traces of the object were left behind, and all commercial, private, and military aircraft along the eastern seaboard were accounted for. The events of the night remain a mystery to this day, and nobody knows where the object went. Even the seafloor was combed, but the object was nowhere to be found. Some people have come forward and claimed that the object had flown away at some point, while others maintain that it was a crashed UFO. To this day, the explanation remains unknown. Westall. Next, we explore Australia, where one of the most compelling UFO sightings had just taken place in 1966. As the story goes, more than 200 students and several teachers witnessed a mysterious saucer-shaped object flying around Westall High School. Eyewitnesses spotted the craft hovering near the school for up to 20 minutes before it descended into a nearby field. The craft was said to be twice the size of a family car and had a mysterious gray hue to it. What's interesting is that no commercial, private, or even Royal Australian Air Force planes were detected in the skies at the time. It was initially suggested that a weather balloon might have been to blame, yet the eyewitnesses quickly dismissed this explanation as the UFO flew in a very bizarre pattern. The Australian skeptics began to claim that it was simply an experimental military aircraft, yet the Air Force dismissed this hypothesis as well. Despite years of research, the Westall UFO incident has been unable to find a solid answer, so the eerie encounter remains a mystery, with the event despite leaving strong evidence of its occurrence, all that matters is that it happened, and nobody quite knows what it was. Anchorage UFO. It was a cold night on November 18, 1986. One Japanese Boeing 747 cargo aircraft on its way to Anchorage, Alaska, suddenly witnessed something very strange. Two unidentified flying objects approached the aircraft and started to fly alongside it, lit up the cabin and filling it with intense heat. As these jets moved away instead, a large disc-shaped craft began to follow the plane, making its way onto the airplane's radar. The flight crew contacted Anchorage Air Traffic Control requesting a course change, which the UFO followed regardless. All the data collected from the incident was then presented to federal agencies to investigate. Despite the agencies insisting the meeting never took place, the event has since become one of the most dramatic UFO sightings of all time. It's even more fascinating when you consider the fact that the federal agencies were willing to claim that an entire military craft may have been involved in the incident. Despite all the evidence, their official stance is that it never really happened. Nonetheless, this incident is regarded as evidence of UFOs existing and an overall mysterious event. O'Hare UFO. Let it be said that the 2006 O'Hare International Airport UFO remains one of the most baffling, unexplained events in history. On November 7, 2006, multiple witnesses reported seeing a metallic saucer-shaped craft hovering in the sky above the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, before shooting straight upwards and piercing the clouds. Though the Federal Aviation Administration initially claimed that they didn't have any information about the sighting, one interested reporter revealed that close to a dozen United Airlines employees, ranging from pilots to supervisors, had seen the disc.
And there's this story you may have already heard about. United Airlines employees who swear it was something otherworldly in the skies above Chicago's O'Hare Airport on November 7th.
The FAA then suggested that the sighting was the result of a weather phenomenon called a hole punch cloud, yet temperatures on the day wouldn't have enabled this. Following this, they suggested that airport lights were responsible, yet these had been switched off. Further investigation was not conducted, and to this day, the 2006 O'Hare International Airport UFO sighting remains a mystery. Still, it seemed almost obvious that the FAA was trying to hide something by coming up with more and more explanations as to what people had seen. Despite this, the witness accounts of what happened on that fateful day in November 2006 will always remain. Alderney UFO. It was late afternoon, and pilot Ray Bowyer was making a routine 45-minute flight from Southampton to Alderney in the English Channel. Suddenly, he and his passengers saw two UFOs as they approached the island. The incident was reported to the Jersey Airport radar control and lasted for over 55 minutes. Other pilots and passengers also reported the occurrence of unusual colored lights around the same time. Suggestions as to what the mysterious objects were ranged from earthquake lights to sundog. However, no official explanation has been given or agreed upon as to what the UFOs really were. Despite the fact that Bowyer reported the incident to the British Civil Aviation Authority, the case remains unsolved. There were countless eyewitness accounts and some photographic evidence, but one can only speculate as to what actually took place on the day of the incident. Was this proof that aliens exist, or yet another conspiracy theory? It's hard to believe that with so many witnesses, no one can agree on a concrete answer. Belgian UFO Wave. Let's travel to Belgium, where we find another mysterious UFO sighting from 1989 to 1990. During this time, thousands of unexplained aircraft sightings were reported all over Belgium, especially in the southwest of the country. Numerous videos, photographs, and other forms of evidence were considered to be of such high quality that even fighter jets were dispatched to chase these UFOs. In addition to the visual evidence, multiple radar systems tracked the craft as they flew at inhospitable speeds and trajectories. Major General Wilfred de Brouwer even went on record stating that the Belgian UFO wave was exceptional and the Air Force could not identify the nature, origin, and intentions of the reported phenomena. After all these years, the Belgian UFO wave remains unsolved, as no satisfactory explanation has been offered so far, and the UFOs have never been identified yet. These mysterious craft simply disappeared as fast as they had arrived, and the only thing they left behind were the pictures and documented testimonies of countless witnesses. Cache Landrum UFO.
I saw that object. It looked like a diamond.
Double rotary kind of helicopters. I never saw one before.
The Cache Landrum UFO incident was one of the most fascinating UFO stories to ever be told, and it has every element that would make you think it's true. It sounds like it came right out of a science fiction story. In 1980, 3 people, Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and Vicki's 7-year-old grandson Colby, were driving down a dark back road in the Piney Woods region of East Texas. Suddenly, they spotted a huge diamond-shaped UFO in a clearing, surrounded by a fleet of 23 helicopters. The craft was so big and so bright that it was emitting tremendous heat and light. Despite it being incredibly late at night, the UFO was visible to the trio from more than a mile away. The craft and the helicopters flew away, leaving an oppressive heat and a feeling of unease. The 3 travelers were all instantly sick, with Betty Cash receiving the worst of it. She developed painful blisters on her skin, lost clumps of her hair, and was unable to walk for some time. A radiologist examined the group and concluded that they were suffering from secondary damage caused by ionizing radiation. The group sued the United States government for $20 million, but the case was ultimately dismissed. While many believe this is proof of a cover-up, no official explanation has ever been given. Whether it was a cover-up or not, the Cash Landrum UFO incident seems almost too detailed to be fake. Rendlesham Forest. Many UFOs are sighted by thousands above cities, but on December 26, 1980, something mysterious was spotted just outside of a quiet forest in England. This is now infamously known as the Rendlesham Forest incident. A series of UFO sightings were reported to the United States Air Force personnel at the Royal Air Force Station, Woodbridge. The witnesses described intense lights, and several Air Force personnel, including Lieutenant Colonel Charles Verholt, journeyed into the nearby Rendlesham Forest to investigate. Instead of finding a crash, they saw a glowing metallic object that moved at an incredible velocity through the woods. The next day, some servicemen returned to find impressions on the ground, broken branches on the trees, and radiation readings that were 10 times the normal background level. In 2010, retired Lieutenant Halt signed a notarized affidavit that summarized the substantial witness accounts, and he even accused the US and England of a cover-up. While it is still uncertain what exactly happened in the forest, the Rendlesham incident is a major example of a legitimate UFO sighting. After all, if multiple military personnel have seen and independently described the same thing, why not believe it? Phoenix Lights. In the sky above Phoenix, Arizona, one of the most well-known UFO sightings occurred on the night of March 13, 1997. Many reported sightings of a V-shaped fleet of 5 bright lights were reported. Witnesses described the lights as being as big as a football field, staying in formation before eventually dispersing into the night sky. The sighting sent shockwaves throughout the entire state. The U.S. Air Force later released a statement saying that it had deployed flares that night, but many witnesses are still able to attest to the fact that what they saw was not flares nor any other known aircraft. To this day, there is still no conclusive explanation for the Phoenix Lights, and this blaze over Phoenix remains one of the most infamous UFO sightings in history. Even the former Arizona Governor Fife Symington said, "I can definitively say that this craft did not resemble any man-made object I'd ever seen. And it was certainly not high-altitude flares, because flares don't fly in formation." It was a shocking story that led many to believe that skepticism was just unwarranted. There were so many eyewitnesses and accounts that the Phoenix Lights case will continue to stand as one of the most compelling UFO sightings of all time. It's almost impossible to argue that this event was merely a hoax or a mass hysteria. Roswell. Simply mentioning the word Roswell was enough for anyone to know the exact place being discussed: Roswell, New Mexico. In July 1947, something strange happened here that made global headlines. After the flying disc craze of 1947, people in Roswell stumbled upon some metallic and rubber debris that was recovered by Roswell Army airfield personnel. The Army quickly released a statement saying the object was a weather balloon, but decades later, conspiracies surfaced claiming the debris was of extraterrestrial origin from an alien spaceship, resulting in complex conspiracy theories about alien spacecraft recovery and military cover-ups by ufologists. Despite the fact that there was seemingly no satisfactory explanation for the crashed object, and the government had failed to release any information regarding the incident, some still insisted that the craft wasn't extraterrestrial in origin. With images being captured from the crash site and testimonies of military personnel, the Roswell incident has gone down in history as one of the most mysterious UFO encounters in modern history, and continues to be of interest in popular media. The Lubbock Lights. Let's travel to the quiet town of Lubbock, Texas in the year 1951. It was a quiet summer night, and in the early evening, a small group of Texas Tech College scientists were spending their time in the backyard of a geology professor, drinking tea and discussing science topics. However, in the middle of their night out, something strange appeared in the sky, a V-shaped formation of blue-green lights. Confused but still in agreement, these scientists all swore that they had witnessed something extraordinary at that moment. This wasn't a one-time event though, and over the subsequent weeks and months, hundreds of witnesses reported UFO sightings in the sky above Lubbock, making it one of the most documented UFO sightings of the past century. But despite the abundance of credible witnesses and even photographic evidence of the encounters, the Lubbock Lights remain an unsolved mystery to this day, many years after it first began. To this day, the military and other government officials have yet to fully explain what these mysterious lights were, leading to much suspicion and speculation from UFO enthusiasts around the world. It's possible this was just a case of mass hysteria, or it could be indicative of a visit from aliens. The jury's still out. Whatever it was, it's safe to say that unexplained lights possess a captivating mystery that seemingly proved there was something unexplained in the sky that night in 1951. New Jersey Turnpike. What could be so impactful that it would cause many motorists to stop and look to the sky? On July 14, 2001, drivers on the New Jersey Turnpike experienced this as they beheld a strange sight: orange and yellow lights in a V formation over the Arthur Kill Waterway between Staten Island, New York and Carteret, New Jersey. This mysterious event was witnessed by the Carteret Police Department's Lieutenant Daniel Tarrant, as well as other metro area residents from the area. What was it? Nobody was quite for sure. When air traffic controllers were questioned,
bases reported no unusual flight patterns. Meteorologists say there was nothing in the atmosphere last night.
They initially denied that any airplanes, military jets, or space flights could cause the mysterious lights. That's when the New York Strange Phenomena investigators stepped in, claiming to have received FAA radar data that corroborated the UFO sightings from that night. Many drivers, scientists, researchers, and investigators remained skeptical of the event, wondering exactly what those strange lights could have been, and whether they were truly from otherworldly origin. USS Nimitz UFO. The USS Nimitz wasn't just a ship that had sighted a strange UFO off the coast of San Diego in November 2004. The pilots of the two fighter jets, David Fravor and Jim Slate, combined to report an encounter that remains one of the most compelling UFO sightings of all time. After the first sighting, the fighters tracked a white, tic-tac-shaped object that started by hovering above the Pacific Ocean before accelerating away at speeds more than twice that of the jets. Even more curious was the fact that infrared monitors didn't reveal any exhaust from the UFO, and the craft had no visible markings to indicate an engine, wings, or windows. Even U.S. military officials were baffled by the unidentified object and struggled to come up with an explanation. For almost 20 years now, this case and dozens of others have been investigated by the Navy, but have seemingly provided no explanation for what happened. While the strange tic-tac-shaped UFO remains a source of fascination, it continues to tantalize us all with its remarkable story and unexplained origins. Kentucky Goblins. There are few cases of not only UFO sightings, but also alien sightings as fascinating as the Kentucky Goblins case of 1955. On August 21st of that year, multiple adults and children from the small town of Kelly recounted a bizarre tale of small, totally impervious aliens who had tried to invade their small farmhouse before leaving as abruptly as they'd arrived. What made this case all the stranger was that this house, which lacked amenities like electricity, plumbing, and books, was apparently interesting enough to merit the attention of these extraterrestrial predators. As perplexing as this incident seemed, after all, the source of the story could easily be mistaken. The testimony from the town was so convincing that the U.S. military and police were called upon to investigate. While no actual evidence was collected and no records of tracks could be found on the hard, dry soil behind the house, the terrifying story has entrenched itself in the annals of alien lore. And there was one report of an officer finding a glowing substance on the grass, though it never seemed to be tested thoroughly. Until further evidence is found, this case of the Kentucky Goblins will remain a perplexing mystery, full of fear and terror, but without satisfying answers.